Welcome to Draw Process. I'm Ike, drawing pages of my comic every week here in this series. All of them for First Sun and Sword. From the start of episode 1, or you could say volume 1, to now, a few years later, getting wrapped up on episode 2. I only have 7 pages left to draw to finish the story, and that will create the completed first 2 volumes at that point. And then I'm going to approach it differently. So this moment here, the very first panel, these are my roughs. I have nothing, I'm showing you the whole process. There is no earlier drawings that I'm doing to prepare for this. So I started with the important information. I wanted the lizard man, like a cat, having just caught his prey, the boy. And I wanted to capture that precise moment when the cat lunges and catches the mouse. I need that exact moment. If it's a second later, it doesn't read very well. So that's why the pose of the lizard man looks tense still, like he just slammed his hands down. The position of the boy, his head is up, his arm is still up. It's like he has just been slammed to the ground, just been caught. The ability to capture those little details, those nuances in the acting, in the moment, and bringing it to life is very important. This is not simply drawing the human figure from different angles. This is acting. This is bringing it to life, adding the tension and so on. So now we have an interesting layout I chose in the moment that just felt like this would work. I wanted to show the claws, the hands pressing down, digging down into the boy's cape, the boy starting to lift himself up here off of the ground despite the pressure on his back. He's lifting up and then turning with his sword ready to swing. And I've got that in a cascading set of panels that overlap like cards, and they're going to have a curve to them. I've been getting bolder and bolder in my panel layouts these days, and throughout this volume, I've slowly added more and more complexity to the panel layouts. So you see that cascade of panels. I made sure that I'm making sure that the important information will fit in those little panels. And then I should mention that in a minute, but here I started with the boy. I wanted to get that pose just right, how he would be. His weight's on his arm, and he's turned and swung that sword and hyperextended his arm, swinging it as much as he can in that direction. While he's like flat on the ground. So I started with his position, and then I'm okay. Now the lizard's on top, and I know that where the lizard gets hit needs to align with where the sword would have swung. So that tells me the position on the lizard. My first attempt at drawing him, I realized was off because it had his lower body falling too low, like for where the vanishing point should be. So I went back, and this was just a moment ago, I went back and I drew some lines of the ground going to a vanishing point to help myself have a guide, so that as I'm drawing the lizard man, I know where he has to hit the ground, make sure I hit that point. And then there's some adjusting I'm having to do to go back through the drawing, make sure that I've landed that well. And it's definitely a complicated pose. I don't want any of his body parts. The lizard man here, Kurok, I don't want his body parts or his left arm to mess with the clear outline of the action of the sword and of Sun's arm. I don't want so. And that's a lot of what I'm doing too. So I mentioned the character acting. I've got to get these poses to capture a lot of action. I'm feeling it in my body. Like even in my voice, when I said he lunges like a cat, my body is, jerking into that motion. And when I'm drawing, I'm feeling that in my body, and I'm bringing it to life in the pencil strokes. It guides me on that and how I draw. I don't know if everyone does it that way, but that's how I do it. It's very in my body, and it helps me bring it to life and capture just the right moment. But the other thing I'm doing is I'm making sure that I position things where they don't overlap in odd ways. Like, there's a reason that his chest lands where it does. The lizard man here. That his knees and his legs are in a particular position. I'm trying to set up as much as possible things to overlap, but not in awkward ways, and for certain anatomy to be visible, not make it just awkward. A nice silhouette, a nice shape, a nice composition. Sun here, I went ahead and had his cape up to hide his legs. I don't want to try to draw awkward little feet back there and legs that are just going to mess with the outline. The important thing I want you to see is just the hands on the back and Sun's head. Everything back behind that is not needing to be clear, so clear. It doesn't need all these little parts. So I hit it with the cape. Same with Krok's legs. I've got his legs bent in such a way that there's not too much I have to draw. There's not too much detail in it, which will come into how I ink it. The panel, the third panel, top on the top set on the right, I've got the lizard man's mouth open, hissing down onto the boy's head. It's really hard to tell in the pencils what that is, but you'll see as I finish it. It's not showing very much of the head. It's not showing much of the mouth. It's very graphic in a sense. Just a part of the mouth, the hiss, and a part of his head, and the color is what will make it very clear. You'll see the blue-green of the lizard. You'll see the gold of the boy's hair. So you'll know that's his head, even if the ink isn't so clear. And that's something I'm doing more and more of, trusting myself, having kind of the confidence to show less in a panel and still know that you'll know what it is. Like here, this boy, how much of this boy can I squeeze in and how much can I crop out of the panel? And it's still perfect. It's still clear. You only see 2 knuckles, a little bit of 2 fingers on his hand, only a little bit of his arm, and his head is getting cropped off in 2 spots. And up in the narrow strip of the panel, towards the top, there's actually the lizard's snout, and then in that strip, in the third panel right here, it's the lizard's almost his entire head. You get the sense of his whole head there, but it doesn't even show his bottom jaw. Very much of it. The bottom teeth in the front will not show. Just barely the eye, but not the top of the head. So how much can I crop off? How much can I squeeze things in? I've got this narrow strip. I want good information there, perhaps, or maybe I don't. But in this case, I did want it. And I'm going to position my character just right. So, like I said, I'm having them act based on how it feels in my body, how I can bring it to life. But then I'm also manipulating them. I'm setting them up in the positions I need them to be in for a good composition and good storytelling too. So we have the lizard man's hand running down beside the boy's arm in this bottom panel here. And all you need is the wrist and a few knuckles for that to become clear. And also each of these panels, you really get the feeling, you only have a few fingers in the top left one, but you really get the feeling that that this is a cut piece of the bigger picture. When you zoom in, when you have a close-up, it should feel, oftentimes, like the image extends well beyond the panel borders. Like this is just a cut piece of the bigger picture. Every panel should feel that way in a way. This is a cut piece of the bigger picture. If the reader can imagine well beyond the panel borders, then that's great, right? It brings the world very much to life. If they can imagine they can imagine because I've done establishing shots on prior pages where every character is and what position they're in, what pose they're in, like how they're feeling even it has all been established. How they're feeling, like, are they knocked out or what? But I'm establishing the space, and then I'm doing these little snapshots of it, cropped pieces of it, but giving the feeling that it extends well beyond. And so if someone thought back after reading my comic, they pictured it in their head and played it out, they might imagine these images of the boy being hunched down holding his sword. They might imagine it as, in their mind, they might remember the page to show a lot more of the boy in that pose. They might remember the boy in that position and the lizard man above him and fill in the gap in their imagination and mistake it for what they actually saw on the page. And that would be a sign of success, is that they can, they're remembering it incorrectly. They're remembering it as more than it was, more alive, more filled in. That's good. And of course, they may also imagine the scene playing out in their memory with what happens in between panels. So they may not remember, the panels didn't show, I don't know, him catching the moment the boy tried to run away when he got caught like a mouse in the top first panel. You might imagine him trying to turn away and get away, but I didn't draw it. And you might picture it in your mind, thinking it was in the comic when it wasn't. That would be a good sign. The art of, not the physical, drawings, but the craft, the art of the thing that's hard to teach, of making comics, of drawing and making sequential stories, is, can you create an experience for the reader? Like I was just describing, can you bring it to life for the reader? I think, yeah. And it might depend on what reader you're looking for. That's why I hesitated, as I'm thinking there are readers who are really into niche things, or more very analytical oriented, mathematical oriented, and you might do particular grids and structure to your pages, or really heavy in the words, in word balloons and captions, and it could almost become a educational piece, information, informative. And you may have readers that really love that, they get really inspired or into it. So it might depend on your audience. There's not just one way to do it, on what you're going for. But nonetheless, at some point we got to say we're judging we're judging someone's skill by their ability to do that or not. And the judge is the reader. So can they have that experience of well, an experience, that reading it brings it to life in some way and gives them an experience that they feel, that is strong, is intense, is excitatory, is brings up emotion. I mean, whatever words you want to use there. And it's not as simple as putting panels in particular panel layouts. I mean, all the rules you can read in the books about how to do this storytelling could be applied in a rigid sense, and you could still fail at creating that experience. You could draw beautifully or perfectly realistic or whatever, and still fail at creating an experience for the reader, or not be so good at that. And that's the most important thing. And that's why I move more and more towards messier drawings, looser pencils, looser inking, more extemporaneous, more just in the moment expression. To me, the art isn't what's important to perfect or whatever. It's creating that experience. And whenever I see a comic that is messy, is rough, is almost stick figure, you could say. I mean, any comic that just seems like that was easy to draw. You know, that didn't require much skill in the craft of illustration or something. And I still have an incredible experience with the book. I'm sure a lot of artists can relate when it's not crafted so well, but I have an incredible experience. I feel foolish. Why am I putting so much work into my pages and I can't create that good of an experience? This person did it with this little, and I used so much and couldn't do it, right? And it inspires me every time to go more, to only focus on what's important, on that. And I'm moving more and more that direction. I'm trying to find a way to do it and also have complex scenes and lots of detailed fighting, detailed movements with the characters, and complex scenery, lots of figures, lots of action, and establish where things are in space. I mean, I'm trying to find my own way of doing that, and it takes a lot of time. It takes years and years for me to get where I'm getting, and I still have further to go. I can tell I have further to go, but it's becoming more clear where I'm going. I feel better than ever about knowing where I'm going here. We're just going to see, a further development, I think. I mean, we'll see, because I hope to continue to share it on this YouTube and on my website and on with Clever Kaiju. And that's cleverkaiju.com. Matter of fact, I should mention we have an art book that we're taking pre-orders for, and I've got some new illustrations in there, trying some new things. It's going to be a beautiful hardcover book. So check that out, cleverkaiju.com. And my webcomics are on there. Sometimes I make a blog post. I don't do it very often. We have events and stuff, and we have a Discord. So if you're an artist, it's for artists, any kind of visual artist. And I love being a part of that community. It's great to have that. So I'm more, comfortable, confident, motivated with this clarity that develops over time when you work at something, of where I'm going. I mean, it's good to have fun, to be more excited about not knowing where you're going. Sometimes that's nice, but it's also motivating when you know where you're going to some degree. It doesn't mean it's not fun. It doesn't mean I'm not going to find things out as I go. But yeah, feeling good about where it's going. The amount of time and energy I get to commit to this is less than it used to be. There were times I committed more. The results I'm getting are better than what I used to, but the amount of time and energy is less. I think some of that's normal, natural. If this was my job, obviously I would put a lot more time into it. I'm not avoiding it. But there's other things that I want to do and need to do to get by in life. And that's okay. So, because I can tell I'm still developing. It's the growth I see over the last 2 years with this comic. I mean, over 2 years, but you can see it in the YouTube series. Go to the earlier pages. There's some of it's a different style, but the ease with which I execute and bring to life the acting of the characters and the ease with which I draw the environments is clearly improved. I'm saying that, my best attempt at an objective perspective on that when I look back. And this series has helped me I really get to look back at those things. And my thinking on what I'm doing. It's nice to look back at that too. Get a sense for what I was struggling with, how I was making sense of, and why I was doing things. It brings it more to life for me. It's great. You'll see how sometimes I have to go back and I add extra black. So I'm looking at there's something a little flat about, the first pass of inking lines leaves, it doesn't add as much weight or depth and separate things as well. Of course, the color is going to help with that, but I go back with the blacks and I will sometimes have a thicker outline on things to help it separate. And sometimes I'll add, black, solid black areas, or extra hatching to darken an area to help separate things even more than the first pass. But I need to do that in a second pass. I don't think there's a way around that because you can't take it away. You can only add. So I'll finish that and then go back and add. And I used to do that with a brush pen, but I think I was attempting to do intentionally more solid black areas, but I've stopped worrying about that. It can be a kind of rougher filled in, black area, and it will look good. It'll work. Okay. It was fun to draw this pose and this blade cutting him, and try to make a kind of thick, goopy blood, just whatever I felt like there. Just letting the pen move into whatever shapes I want for that blood splatter. Going for some rounded chunks that indicate more of a glob of the blood, and then other parts that are more flowing. So going by feel with that. I mean, everything's by feel. The pencils weren't so clear, so I'm adding things as I go. I find especially, there's a way that I go for muscle groups, not just the outline here, but there's a little bit of building in the structure, even in my inking here. I can't just trace my pencils. I'm going for structure a bit, so gotta do that. I'm finding the elbow and things before I go in and add any hatching or extra details, whatever I want to do. Yeah. I'm thinking about my inking here. This is the pose here was pretty fun and interesting. His shoulders align on a one plane. The arm is pretty much on the same plane. It's I guess it's moving away from the camera a bit. The front, the right arm that's swinging the sword. This I was happy with this hand here. The way that it's been twisted, and then we see the palm. We see under the hand. That's a nice touch. The foot, Sun's foot being visible right there is helpful to kind of fill out his figure. But there's obviously the most important part of the pose is just his head and shoulders and arms. I let his cape hide a lot of the rest of his body, not working any harder than I need to, since those aren't the important parts anyways. I remember I debated on the lizard man's tail. Do I just, is it just hiding behind him, or do I show it in some fashion? It's not that long, so it's kind of, and I don't want to break his silhouette. So tails are kind of, where do I put it? Anyone that's drawn things like that might know. Where do you put the tail? Same with capes. Okay, where do I put this cape? I don't want it to get in the way of things, and I might even use it to hide things, but it gets in the way. It's funny how that works. Okay, so the hatching on the ground, the cast shadows. We have Kurok's, the lizard man's shadow, and we also have Sun's shadow. And I've separated the two. So Kurok's shadow isn't as dark as Sun's shadow. And so there's two layers of the shadow there. And that's always interesting, how to handle shadows with your hatching lines. I come in with the eraser here and just clean it up, and then I'll go back with white out, basically white opaque paint in this brush pen, and touch up a few areas, and then I do a little bit of touching up digitally, like the panel borders where the lines go over the edge of the panel border. I just erase it digitally. It's easier that way. I do adjust the levels, the curves. I use the curve tool in Clip Studio, but it's like increasing contrast to darken the line work from the scan. It doesn't scan as dark as this. But I don't go to solid black. I keep it at 600 DPI for 11 inches by 17 inches. A very big scan until I bring it in and export it with the colors at 450 DPI for printing and 300 for the digital. At comic book size, so it gets scaled down at that point. But I don't go for a bitmap. I don't go solid blacks. So some of the color will show through the inks. The inks will have a little variation in value, and it just brings them to life a little bit more. It makes them look more hand done. And when it comes to printing, it's going to print, color and black ink in those areas, which can add a richness to the blacks. Subtle, maybe a little bit. That's a minor point. But yeah, that's a bit about the digital process and setting up for printing. And 7 pages left, so at most 7 weeks left of this series, and I may have to pause it after that for a little bit because I need to write the next story. I'm not ready to draw another page right away. And then I might adjust the format a bit. So this could sort of be the end of the series for now, and the end of what it is. Just after a while, 2.5 years, something like that. And so that's going to be cool to complete even this series and the 2 books. So stay along for the ride. Go back and watch the old ones. Hope you enjoy and that it helps you with your practice. See you next week.